Well, we're in the midst of the second-term shuffling of the cabinet chairs, and sometimes it can lead to an increase in the number of women appointed to high-level positions, and then sometimes not. President George W. Bush increased the number of women in his cabinet from 19% in his first term to 24% in his second. President Bill Clinton saw the percentage of women rise from 27% to 41%. But with 4 major appointments so far, all but complete, and all 4 going to men, could the number of women in President Obama's cabinet actually decrease? Join now for our Thursday gaggle, Democratic strategist Jamal Simmons from the New York Times, Jackie Calmes, and former Republican Congressman from Indiana, Chris Chocola, who is now President and CEO of the Club for Growth. Welcome all. Congressman, I want to start with you. You okay being called Congressman still, or do you?
I'm formerly honorable. Chris works just great.
So formally, I was just going to say, I never know anymore with Congress with a low approval rating. You're like, I don't want that title.
No, I deny at every opportunity.
I want to ask you about this issue of debt ceiling. Are you going to make the debt ceiling vote, no matter what it is, a vote that Club for Growth tracks as a negative?
Well, I don't know yet. I mean, I don't think it's a debt ceiling debate. I think it's a debt debate. I think the Republicans have a pretty simple message. Do we want more debt or less debt? We want more. We want less. They want more. And I think that they have public opinion on their side. So, but it doesn't matter if they're not going to use their leverage. And I'm not convinced they will. I don't think the administration.
Well, there are some Republican leaders, though, that argue quietly, look, debt ceiling is a losing argument for the Republicans, but government shutdown and funding the government is a better leverage pull. Or do you fall into that camp or no?
Well, I think they're linked. I mean, I think that that is their leverage, is a threat of the government.
You think they should link it?
Yeah, I think they should, because otherwise they have no leverage. And so, but I don't, you know, the Club for Growth isn't going to advocate a government shutdown. What we're going to advocate is responsible behavior. And the trick that Republicans have to do is define responsible behavior.
And try to pass something first.
And pass something that's good enough in exchange to raise the debt ceiling. So I think that that's what they have to do, but I do think the public opinion's on their side. And you know, people are going to say, well, it's irresponsible to use this as their leverage. But what's more irresponsible? Stay on the path we're on, add to our deficit and debt, or just try to change the path and attain fiscal sustainability, which is what we have to do.
I want to go to this diversity thing. Jackie, it was your newspaper that sort of dropped this little, well, shall we say, turd in the punch, I think is the way some might call it. And it was interesting to watch Dave Carney yesterday to say, the article was fine, we just didn't like that picture.
Right. Well, that picture had been circulating, emails, Twitter, on the internet for some days before that, and I remember thinking we should use this somehow in the paper to illustrate a story. And it was interesting in particular because I didn't even know till this picture ran in the New York Times that the leg behind Dan Pfeiffer, the communications director, is Valerie Jarrett, who is, you know, one of the closest advisors. But this Valerie Jarrett, who one of her jobs is to see that there's more women in the top ranks of the administration, can't even get herself in the picture.
Right.
Well, that's not really fair.
But Jamal, I mean, no, but here's a better
use of photography.
I understand that, but here's a better question. You know,
but it was their photography.
You're a communications professional. Yeah. Optics are everything.
Absolutely.
Sometimes.
They can do better.
And you're just wondering, why wasn't there a second-term transition director, if you will? I've had some people ask me that. And supposedly they said, hey, guys, why don't you have somebody who thinks about, oh, we're about to have 4 white guys in a row. Maybe we ought to space out these announcements.
Listen, this has been a problem for this team almost from the beginning. And remember that picture in the campaign with all the staffers who were sitting around waiting. There was a big outcry from some of the minority communities because they didn't see any people of color in that photo of the staffers. You're now seeing that with this picture and the cabinet appointment. They've got to do a better job of getting their message out about the people who are actually there. 2 women deputy chiefs of staff. Obviously, you've got Valerie Jarrett there. You've got a head of presidential personnel, state and local government directors. All these people who are inside the White House who are doing work.
The question is, are they insiders? And that's always been.
Well, only Valerie Jarrett, who's more of an insider than Valerie Jarrett.
The question is, are some of the other insiders?
And Alyssa Masterman, I can never get her name right. But Alyssa, who's the deputy chief of staff,
right, is very powerful.
Very powerful inside.
An insider. Chris, I've been watching Republicans sort of laughing at this, going, well, hey, you guys make a big deal of this during campaigns, and so what? You got to eat your vegetables.
Well, you know, at the Club for Growth, we think that pro-growth economic policy is, you know, gender neutral and race neutral. This isn't a distraction that we're going to spend a lot of time on.
No, I understand that you're not. I mean, I'm just saying that the sort of the it's one of these cases, Democrats campaign on it, so they're going to get stuck having to deal with it.
Well, I think, if there's a smirk on some Republicans' faces, that's understandable. Watching it.
But Republicans, don't have a lot to boast of.
They can't use it.
This is a bipartisan problem.
Well, this is a pipeline issue.
Right.
There's also this idea that there is a pipeline issue, particularly in the economic world, where there's a lot of men.
I'll reject that. I'll reject that. It's not really a
world.
pipeline issue. There are a lot of qualified people in the pipeline. You've got to go out and get them, and then when you get them, you've got to let people know that they're there. And I think they lose a lot of leverage on letting people know who's around the president and who's actually involved in some of this decision making.
All right, let's take a break. Stick around, trivia. We asked who was the last former presidential nominee to later serve in the cabinet. The answer is Adlai E. Stevenson. Stevenson was the Democratic nominee, of course, in 52 and 56. Lost to Eisenhower both times. In 60, appointed by President Kennedy to the to be the United States ambassador to the United Nations. Of course, Democrats call it a cabinet-level position. Republican administrations do not. So a little bit of an asterisk on that one. If you got a political trivia question for us, email us at dailyrundown@msnbc.com. We'll be right back. 'Cause I'm gonna make this place yours. Let's bring back our gaggle, Jamal Simmons, Jackie Calms, and former Congressman Chris Chocola. Chris, let me start with you. The Hell No Caucus, as it's will, in the House Republicans. What about this idea that, hey, you can only control about 33% of the legislating part of this, policy part of this, White House. Can you accept 40% of what you want rather than go to 0 or 100?
Well, this whole compromise argument,
right,
I think, is misleading, because the compromise only matters where you start. Are you going to start by growing government, or are you going to start by shrinking government? And the debate is always, well, let's compromise on how much we grow government. So I think it's where you start more than whether you want to compromise or not. I think you have fiscal conservatives in the House that can provide an opportunity for a vision of the future, and that's their job.
All right, Jackie, White House Chief of Staff is an opening now, not going to be announced today. Right. Dennis McDonough, Ron Klain, two guys, right, both with different skill sets, if you will. Interesting that the president hasn't decided yet.
No, there seems to be some concern that Dennis McDonough doesn't have a lot of domestic policy experience.
And political experience.
And political. Yeah. And Ron Klain, of course, has a lot of experience running a staff as for both Biden and Gore, so... but no woman.
Jamal, shameless plugs. You start.
Sherilyn Ifill, congratulations, was just named the head of the Legal Defense Fund for the NAACP, and she takes office January 23rd.
Jackie, yours.
Oh my God, I came unprepared today.
Unprepared.
March 7th through 9th, the Club for Growth Winter Economic Conference. Beautiful Palm Beach, if people are interested.
How many presidential candidates are showing up there?
None that I know of. I don't know who is a president. Well, potentially many. It depends on who runs. But,
all right, so that means we're going to find Marco Rubio there, Paul Ryan there. We'll see. All right. Thank you all. That's it for this edition of the Daily Rundown. Jackie will tweet out her shameless plug in a few minutes when she thinks of it. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Coming up next, Chris Jansing. Bye-bye.